Hello, I'm Shannon Caine. Today on the Caine Interviews, we'll be talking with Bob Rutz, Joan Rutz, Nancy Hoy, and David Hoy. They're from Living Springs, a planned Christian community in Madison County, Arkansas. We'll discuss Christianity and the communal lifestyle, the mission of Living Springs Christian Community, and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. First, could you tell us a little bit about Living Springs? Where is it located and how many people are currently living there?
It's about 33 air miles straight east of here. Hope to put in an airstrip in the spring. By road, it's 58 minutes flat without too heavy a foot on the accelerator. And it's on a beautiful 40-acre lake right in the middle of the prettiest part of the Ozarks. It's just about 20 minutes the other side of Huntsville from Fayetteville here.
Okay. And how many people are currently residing there?
We have about 18 families with 31 adults and 16 children.
Okay. What was the primary idea behind the establishment of Living Springs? What got you started in this endeavor?
We were living in Southern California where they got problems. Over the years they have riots and fires and mudslides and earthquakes, and the streets of the big cities in Southern California are not the best place in the world for your kids to grow up. And around here is just a different world. The people out in Madison County, the people are so friendly and neighbors. Everybody knows everybody, and they welcome us, and it's just a neat place to live.
Okay. That actually goes into my next question, which was why Madison County and what drew you to the particular area? So you have the friendliness of the people and the relative safety in which to raise a family, but what brought that area to your attention?
Well, we have a daughter-in-law who is from Arkansas who met my son in California, and they had come back here for vacation, and on their way back from Eureka Springs with her parents, they decided to stop in Huntsville and see if there was any property for sale. We had looked for rural property. We were very interested in rural property in California, but didn't have all that we wanted, and it was way too expensive. So they looked and found a beautiful acreage that they live on now, and then we found this later as we were visiting them.
Okay. Now, some people may have stereotypical ideas about communal living, particularly in a religious context. So in what way does Living Springs contradict those stereotypes?
I would say that we're really about the furthest thing removed from, if you would picture whatever your stereotypical image would be of a religious commune or community, we're really about the opposite of that. We're much more like a neighborhood would be. I hate the term subdivision, although that's where we moved from. We didn't start out at Living Springs when we moved from the Chicago area 5.5 years ago. But like many other families, we were drawn to the idea of a rural lifestyle, even a homesteading type lifestyle. A lot of the impetus for that was the idea of getting out of debt, and we had large mortgages and so forth. It was really cost prohibitive to do that in the Chicago area, and so we had friends that have moved down here, and through a series of events, we ended up transitioning into the Living Springs community. But to answer your question, it's really not a commune or even what you would think of in terms of a quote-unquote religious community. It's much more like a neighborhood with just really good neighbors that we have. Many of us have very common beliefs in terms of faith, and so, but even there's some significant divergence.
Okay.
If you try and visualize maybe a section of land, a square mile, and people living here and there around it, many of the people bought 3-acre lots. Others people bought more, up to 80 acres. And it's just quite a diversity. And it like some of the people that live there, they just prefer to go to church someplace else. We have what we call a meeting house. We don't really call it a church, but most of us that live there meet there, but there's a whole bunch of other folks that just attracted to the place, and so they're just part of us. It just happens that most of the people are Christians, but not all of them. But they're all welcome. Some of the folks that comes to our meetings, they just love to be with us, and we love to be with them.
Okay, for the contemporary Christian, what are the advantages of communal living?
We already told you that we
Okay.
don't have.
Okay, so,
The advantages of Living Springs are much the same as they would be in just in any tight neighborhood type setting. You know, there's a I mean, if you need somebody to help you jump your car, or you need somebody to help you move a heavy piece of furniture, there are people around that are willing to do that, and much more. I mean, in terms of, you know, these are people that what some of our deepest friendships that Nancy and I have ever established in our adult lives have been established with the people at Living Springs, even though we've really only lived there for a couple of years. You know, some of those relationships really transcend even family relationships. I mean, it's, you know, you feel like you'd lay down your life for some of these people, and I mean, that's rare to find, that, you know, that level of relationship.
sure, so there's an intensely deep sense of community.
Yeah.
Without necessarily being communal in the sense that some groups have.
Yeah, there's no commonly held property per se. Everybody owns their own land or owns their own property and so forth. And yet, you know, there's this sense in which if I have something, I mean, or maybe a better way of putting it, if I need something, I know that there are people I can go to and ask for help, or ask for a tool or an item, and they'll relinquish it without they wouldn't even think twice about not allowing you to use it, or just give it to you. Again, that's kind of a neat, you know, aspect of the community. Something I wanted to mention is that one of the differences at Living Springs is what you might think of as a so-called Christian community, you know, type setting. We have people that live on the property, but they don't fellowship there in terms of church affiliation or whatnot. They have other places that they go. But we have a number of other people that don't live on the property that commute in. We have people from Fayetteville that drive from Fayetteville just to come out and spend the day with us on Sunday, but don't necessarily live there or even necessarily have plans to live there.
Okay. What are some of the potential problems that could be associated with an intentional community such as Living Springs? Have you encountered any difficulties in this endeavor?
I think, again, it's a lot like you would have in a neighborhood. Some people connect very, very well, and other people you don't connect as well with. And there's just differences in the way that you think something should be done. And we experimented with a community garden this past year, and we all kind of came with our picture of what that garden should look like, or what it should be like, and so we had to work out some real differences there. But it was a lot of fun, and it deepened our relationships, you know, just working through those differences. And so there's other things that we've done together as a community, and had those same kinds of differences, and found that even though it's hard, as we walk through it, it'll all work out in the end. And it does. It's been good.
Most of us have our own gardens, because then we know what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're doing.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
You do it
right.
the way you
Most of
wanna
us
do it.
have, actually, I came away from the community garden thinking, I think I'm just going to have my own garden next year. But
The Pilgrims tried it when they first came here, and they nearly starved. So they all got together.
I think what we'll do is next year, we're just going to all grow potatoes together, or we're going to all grow carrots together, do something.
Or trade potatoes for carrots. Or,
Something like that.
So even though there may be the occasional difference of opinion, on the whole, it's all resolved peacefully. Do you think some of that ease of interaction may have to do with so many of the people being like-minded in terms of faith?
Yeah, I think.
I'm sure.
I
I'm sure
think,
it does.
yeah.
I think
But
so.
we've had people that have joined the community, as it were, that were not Christians. I remember one couple in particular that they made a statement at one of the community meal, you know, type meetings that we have on Sundays. And the individual said, "I'm not a Christian. I don't really want to be a Christian. I'm just glad that you accept me, even though I'm not a Christian, and even though I really don't want to be." and it was kind of an interesting thing, because it wasn't too terribly long later that she was standing up and saying, "I'm so glad I'd become a Christian." So, and we weren't trying to convert her. That wasn't our agenda. We weren't trying to force that, on her. It just, I guess, when you have the love of God in your heart, it just leaks out, and
It rubbed off.
it just rubs off on people. You just love people, and it just.
They had tried a couple of real communities or communes or Christian, whatever they were, and basically got rejected, kicked out of
Yeah,
them.
they were kicked out of a couple places.
So they're happy that
Yeah.
they took them like they were.
And we were tested. By the way, and there were times we thought, are they trying to get kicked out? Because there was it was strenuous at times, but they're wonderful people, neat people, and they're now neighbors.
Wow.
On the other hand, there's people that come along that they aren't organized. They don't have elders. They don't have deacons. They don't have, a leader any leader that's obvious, other than the Lord Himself, who seems to know how to keep us all in line, and how to, keep us loving each other. And every year or two, somebody comes along and wants to get us organized.
More
Yeah.
structured.
Put in some kind
More
of
structure.
structure.
Yeah.
But you feel you're structuring just fine without some of the additional
We don't like
guidance.
this.
Yeah, we're as free as you can be. We don't really have any structure. There's not any
Yeah.
hierarchical structure. There's not a boss. There's
You're
no.
stealing all our questions.
Actually, you are. We'll get to that. And, but that's fine, because that is actually something I'll address in a bit, and I did want to talk about, because, just wanting to kind of get a sense of how things are, and, you hear about, organizations where you have, type A personality at the helm, and and you hear about unfortunate situations, and this is
Yeah, we don't
how-
even allow Kool-Aid,
yeah, and so so you get those kinds of situations sometimes, and so this sounds in a way kind of a radical departure from that sort of thing, and you don't have the one supreme autocrat at the top, And,
We have people who have wanted to be in that role, and it's never worked out. I mean, not that they were forced out or whatever, but I mean, there are people that have a lot of strong leadership, not so much that they wanted to be in a dictatorial role, but people that just felt that they had a vision, and if we could all just kind of get a hold of their vision, and it's really not what God has done in this particular community. Now, on the other hand, we've had situations where there has been, for lack of a better word, a crisis, a community-type crisis, or some issue that needed to be addressed, and it required the cooperation and input from most of the people, or as many as possible were there. And so we'll get on the phone and call an emergency meeting or something on a short-term notice, and all get together and talk through those issues and pray through those issues, and usually reach resolution pretty quickly.
Okay. Now, people of varying ages reside at Living Springs. What is life like for the young people there?
It's wonderful. I have 4 children. I have almost 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 16-year-old. 2 boys, the oldest, and then 2 girls, the youngest. And there's just plenty of things for them to do, and many other children to interact with. Some of the children are involved in 4-H and Boy Scouts. There's a little dance group that my daughter's part of, and they play baseball and go swimming together at the lake. They're just having a grand time.
Okay, so it's not a sense like in some communities where the children are kind of kept under lock and key.
no.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, they're very involved in, we get together on Sundays. That's our once-a-week meeting time. We have a meal around 12:30 that anyone is invited to. And after that, we get together and we kind of are more in like a circle to share and to just talk about our week and how things have gone in the week, and to pray together, and we sing together. And the children are very, very involved in that. Many times they'll have a song, or they'll have something that they would like to share. Someone brings a teaching, or they're very, very involved.
Okay.
The thing that I've noticed over the years, is kids are all playing together. The world I grew up in, you got a bunch of 12-year-olds and a bunch of 10-year-olds tagging along. Us big kids got big kid stuff. You get lost, you know. The whole bunch of them play together, whether it's hide and go seek or kickball or soccer. Or they're just all out there, very patient. And the big kids especially love the living daylights out of the little kids. And I've never seen them tangle. I mean, 3-year-olds all the way up to 15, 16-year-olds playing together. I've never seen it for years without any, you know, she did this to me, or none of it. To me, I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's something supernatural or something. Just awesome.
Are the children, do they mostly go to public schools in Madison County or some homeschooled?
We have children that attend the public schools, and then some that do private school and homeschooled children. So all, just like in
All the above.
yeah.
What schools do they go to in that area? Is it Kingston or?
Kingston and
I
Huntsville.
guess Huntsville, and then
Yeah.
Okay. The next question was back to the potential hierarchical structure governing life at Living Springs. So we've kind of established there's no real boss at the top. But if a community crisis does come up, then it would be pretty much a communal effort to solve that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so.
And usually, you know, whoever, I may get a phone call from any one of a number of different people saying, we need to get together, there's this crisis, someone's in the hospital, we need to get together and pray for them. Or we have a physical, you know, issue with the property that needs to be talked about in terms of, or I think we ought to change our meeting time, or whatever it is. Anybody can call a meeting. And one of the great things about Living Springs is whenever possible, we put meetings off. We try not to have, you know, the only thing that's really regularly scheduled, if that's the right term, is our Sunday meeting, which, you know, we mentioned is starts with a community, like a potluck type meal, and then we all hang out together and just spend the rest of the afternoon together. So it'll run from 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning until 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock at night. You got people coming and going on an as-needed basis, you know, throughout the day. But aside from that, if somebody has a need for there's an issue that needs to be talked about and discussed, then they'll just start calling people and say, let's meet over at the community building at whatever time and work through this or talk through it, or, you know, whatever.
Okay. What tasks might individual residents be asked to perform at Living Springs? Are there any kind of community tasks that kind of require a lot of people to work together, or do people more keep to themselves individually? You had mentioned a community garden.
Yeah,
for
and that was
example.
really our first attempt at a big community thing. And overall, I think it went okay. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, if we're going to do that next year or not. But people pretty much have their own lives. And we love each other and connect when we can, but for the most part, everybody is living their own life.
Kind of tasks you get are, would you help start my car, or would you come, so-and-so is moving in, let's go help them unload, or, you know, something like that.
It's done real informally, you know, where someone will call and say, hey, we need 3 more guys to help move some stuff, or whatever, and so. You know.
So again, it's not that
It's a neighborhood.
dictatorial thing
Right.
where
Not at
somebody
all.
says, this week you will be doing X, Y,
Oh,
and Z.
not
you
at
know.
all.
No.
And, okay, and,
Well, anything that's done is all on a volunteer basis.
sure.
We have someone that built the community center, just felt that God wanted him to do that. So that he's a builder, and he did that. But it's not that anyone has to do something of any of these. It's
No.
like there are needs sometimes presented, and then those who feel that they are led to do that, or they want to do that, then they go ahead and help. But
If there's any leadership at all, you might call it servant leadership. Like Jesus says, hey, I'm your Lord and Master, but I'm washing your feet. And that's the way you're supposed to treat each other. For example, one brother out there, about 4 years ago, he came to us and said, God wants me to build you a house. That as is that we didn't have a house, we were living in somebody else's trailer. We were looking at $5,000 trailers at the time, and we didn't really they didn't look all that good to us. Old used trailers, 10, 15 years old. But about that time, he comes to us, and so he's got designs of a house. Of course, we kept expanding it. He had 2 bedroom with 1 floor. We asked him to put in another floor, and then we actually stuck in another floor on top of that. And actually, it ended up with a storage room. It's a 4-story building on the lakefront there. That's a masterpiece. He put this thing up, the entire shell, the outside, completely dried in, the roof, foundations, the whole 9 yards. And he didn't charge us for it. He's just doing it out of the kindness of his heart. The same guy that built the community building. So as far as a model, it's kind of contagious, because this kind of giving and this kind of people are out there forever giving away their cars or this or that, or very important things just to help each other, because the Lord kind of taps him on the shoulder and says, his brother needs this, go help him. So it's interesting to, but it's a God thing, I mean, it's not like it's something, a set of rules or mandatory, everything. People they're totally free to do this kind of stuff, and you could probably tell stories all night long.
Oh yeah, all night long.
Go ahead, tell one or two.
Well, I mean, it's just a neat thing just to see people who are so willing to jump in and help. And as Bob mentioned, you have people who are giving away everything, but from their time to their money to vehicles to, without coercion, without anybody begging or any pressure being applied. It's really bathed in love. It's just people wanting to help one another and serve one another, knowing that the time will come when they'll have a need and that they'll want someone. So, it has a lot to do, I think, with Jesus' words and what we refer to as the golden rule. Treat other people the way the way you'd like to be treated. And so there just seems to be that mindset that, one good deed begets another, and it's contagious, and it just goes, and
it's God's nature to be a giver, and he likes to find people that he can trust to hand it out. The way Jesus put it was, give, and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. The way the world rewords that is what goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. And when you find out that the more you try to, do that, the more comes back to you, just like Jesus said, and you start experiencing that year after year after year. It's awesome to see it working.
Do you have regular religious services at Living Springs?
Well, the one he mentioned there.
Okay. Yeah, the Sunday meeting, which I wouldn't describe it as a religious service. We've had people who have come, and they were brought to the meeting under the pretense that they were coming to a church service. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time hearing a young man make the comment as he was leaving. He says, "That's not church. Church has a starting point and an ending point, and you know exactly what's going to happen from the beginning to. That's not church. Those people, they don't, and then we took that as a great compliment, because we don't really want to. We don't see ourselves as anything analogous to a traditional church.
It's okay in the middle of anything. Go get another cup of coffee. If there's any dessert left, of course, the kids usually clean you out of that. And whatever's left over there, you get hungry, or if it gets going too late, just grab a plate, and it's got nothing to do with anything that's going on.
So it's not necessarily a formalized kind of thing.
We had a religious type that was in there. The children are 2 children. They're running around. They're coming. I mean, it's not like they're interrupting anything or something, but they're going to come. So, don't they know this is the house of the Lord? Like this. I say, hey, give them some slack. I mean, they're kids. And I remember another day, 2 other days, in fact. One was a snow day, and David and another fellow were out there playing with the kids during our meeting time. This fellow was shocked. They're doing this, right? I said, these kids have they've been around here for hours, It's
how long can you expect?
The other day they're out flying kites during the service, This guy was just, I mean,
Well, the kids this past spring formed an impromptu baseball league or softball league or
that's-
something. They're
yes.
outside playing baseball. I mean, just on their own. They just orchestrated that and grabbed pieces of cardboard to use for bases and whatever, and everybody ran home and got their mitts, and all of a sudden we had all summer long and into the fall, they were playing baseball.
But sometimes they're sitting there for hours during the meeting because the kids are big contributors to it. They're playing instruments or leading in prayer or reading something, or because the type of meeting we have is everybody brings something, you know. So it's not like somebody monopolizes anything. And that's why it's always different. And it's, you might say, a God-led meeting rather than a human-led meeting. In other words, nobody's standing up there organizing things, and now we're going to do sing hymn number this.
And we do sit in a circle rather than have chairs lined up.
Right,
And,
so there's
that-
not one person
That's right. And there's a lot
addressing
of
it.
giving and sharing and
Well, Bob describes it great. He says, you know, when you're in school and you walk into a classroom, everybody knows who the teacher is, you know, because all the chairs are lined up and there's one person sitting at a desk or standing at a lectern or whatever. We just kind of broke that mold, if you will, and because we sit in that circle, everybody's equal. Everybody participates on an equal basis, although nobody's required to. We have people who are very quiet by nature, and so nobody tries to say, okay, now you do this, or now you teach us that, or sing this, or nobody's required to do anything. They can just come and sit and enjoy the meeting and slip in and slip out, and that's okay too.
Okay, and so, and that also extends to the kids. They can slip in and slip out.
But they participate.
Right.
That's what makes
Yeah,
it.
they like to be there.
It's
I
a,
mean,
Sure.
it's not, you
it's
know.
a family. It's like like in the New Testament, it says that when you meet together, everybody's got to bring something. Bring a word of encouragement, or a song, or a prayer, or something. Don't come empty-handed
Right.
to the party.
Well, you know, it's really neat in a way to hear about the children being involved in the community. You know, so many times you'll go to a traditional church and it's like the only address to the kid is sit down, shut up, do not make a sound, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so that sounds like a real different kind of experience. You
When
know?
Jesus says, even to understand the kingdom of God, we got to become like them as opposed to them becoming like us.
Yes.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you know, rather than encouraging the children to sit there and be quiet, we encourage them to participate in the service, whether that's to read a psalm or to play something. We had some kids who were taking piano lessons, and so we got a preview of their piano recital.
Yeah.
Remember that all the kids came in and did their little pieces, and they were going to do the
For
next day.
Christmas.
For Christmas,
Yeah,
that's right.
it was really nice.
Kids put a Christmas play together, you know, and just kind of on an ad hoc basis, and they wanted to do it and did it, and it was, you know, really enjoyable.
Well,
The
that's neat.
children of the community just love each other, and they love being part of it. It's just been such a neat experience for them and for us as parents to be part of.
What you're saying is they're not homesick for the city.
Not at all.
No,
Not
as a
at
matter of
all.
fact, I was thinking, when they were talking about, you know, do kids like living in the community? Our children, we were talking at one time, because we had transplanted here from a suburban environment outside Chicago, and we were going through some difficulties and so forth, as, you know, as every family does. And I said to the kids one time, I said, you think we should move back? Should we go back, you know, to the city? Should we go back? And one of my children, my oldest actually, said, oh no, Dad. He says, why would we want to go to the city? There's nothing to do there. There's nothing to do.
That's great.
Little different perspective.
They live in probably the remotest part. I mean, there's nobody around for, can't say for blocks, but for, you know,
Acres.
probably
acres.
10 or 15-minute walk, depending on the time of year and how much snow and rain and
Yeah.
stuff, just to get down through the woods to anybody else living there. So, I mean, their kids are pioneers, but what do they think? Like, is it like one big camping trip or something?
yeah.
They
love it.
My two oldest are boys, which helps. You know, they just love it. Hunting, fishing, just being boys.
Chopping wood.
Chopping
Oh,
wood,
yeah. That's
yes,
big.
yes. Yes, very much.
Okay. Now, I was looking at the Living Springs website, and the site outlines economic opportunities in conjunction with Living Springs. And so, what are the additional investment opportunities aside from the funding of the airstrip?
The biggest thing is we got this beautiful 40-acre lake, which we've reserved, and, you know, the land around it. And we have 60 acres down below it, bottomland, good fertile bottomland. It's presently got cows on it. But this land, we've reserved it for agricultural purposes because I believe there may come a day when there's a lot more people there than there is now. And we know that we could literally feed thousands of people off that land. Reason I know that, we have a neighbor who takes food to the farmer's market here in Fayetteville, and he's proved that just one fella farming a little over an acre can get $15,000 an acre by knowing what he's doing, just dry farming, no, just ordinary, not even that good a land, This is bottomland. He's not farming bottomland. He had to hand remove every stump and he had to really work it and deer fence it and rabbit fence it and really work at it. But he's proved that can be done. Well, what that means is with 60 acres, you could produce $1 million worth of food every year, dry farming. But we have a 40-acre lake sitting on. We can feed by gravity. We can irrigate that thing, which we could get a lot more. So if there ever comes a day where there's hundreds of people there, well, we could do something. What I would like to see is we have a fellow that can build these what do you call these greenhouses that are made out of plastic, the 6 mil stuff with air in between and does the hoops and everything. I'd like to see an investor come and start putting that together. We have one terraced hillside, about 10 acres we could start putting terraces on, and people could come from town. They want to, say, rent 10 or 15 feet of that space there and raise all their food there, summer, winter, and spring, in these greenhouses, and just come out every weekend and maybe do a little work in it and pick it up and pick up the, what's growing there. It'd be neat to have an investor that could tear into that.
Tell us a little bit about the airstrip. Why an airstrip?
33 miles from the Fayetteville airstrip to here. Now, we do have people that drive to town, but an hour each way. In a big city like Los Angeles, people think nothing out of driving an hour to where they work and an hour to come back. Most people don't want, there's a lot of empty countryside, so if they're working in Fayetteville or Springdale or Bentonville or someplace, they want to live closer in. But if you have a plane or can afford a plane, as soon as we get that airstrip in, hopefully this spring, you'll be able to buy a lot there and park your plane right in your garage. And it becomes then what, 12 or 15 minute hop, or something a little faster, 10 minute from Fayetteville to there. That makes it different. So that's one reason, is one of the things I do to make a living is, of course, to pay the mortgages, I got to sell real estate. So I just love to get that airstrip in and hope we get some people that just appreciate being able to live in a place like that.
Okay, now is Living Springs accepting new residents?
Boy, oh boy. Be my guest. We love, you're welcome. You're all welcome out there. Wherever you are, we'd love to see you. Okay. Could you come visit us tomorrow?
I can't do it tomorrow, but I could eventually probably come out. I could even, if you like, come out and shoot some field footage and, show people what it's like.
Great. It's
Well,
beautiful.
Come
Absolutely
at
beautiful.
12:30 or even earlier. Bring a can of beans or don't bring a can of beans. Potluck or whatever. And how you get there is you go south of Huntsville. Mm-hmm. You just go south from the square in Huntsville and 23 south for 4 miles and 9 miles east on 74, and you're there. Mm-hmm. I mean, the state highway is right alongside that lake there. You just look across the lake and you see a white roof place. That's our meeting house. Okay. And you kind of follow your nose. So 12:30 any Sunday, come and visit us. Okay. If you want to call us about it, our same area code 479 here. I'm at 665-2887. Me or Joan, you can talk to either one of us.
Okay. And you've already mentioned this, but just kind of reiterate, if one moves to Living Springs, he or she would absolutely retain their own property and possessions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So basically I'm getting a picture of folks who, in a lot of ways, have pretty separate lives on one hand, but yet have this community that they can rely on. And in a lot of cases it's a faith community, but doesn't necessarily have to be, like, say, non-Christians would also be welcome to come out.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Okay. And so that's not necessarily an issue. Say if a Jewish family was just
Oh, we'd
drawn
love
to
to be
it.
there.
Oh,
and-
great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's Muslims or other folks, it's just not especially a huge...
Yeah, my boss is a Jew,
Okay.
Jewish
And,
carpenter.
Okay, well, and we've already, I think, tackled this, and the last question, you know, if you just each would like to say something on the point. I was going to ask, can interested parties come visit your community? And I think you've already made that pretty much clear, but maybe each of you, in closing, could tell us why Living Springs is such a neat place to come visit.
I'll start with
Okay.
that. My mother was able to come and visit a few years ago, and I asked her what she enjoyed most about Living Springs. She said, I enjoyed the service on Sunday afternoon because everybody sat in a circle and shared what God was doing in their lives. And to me, to hear a personal word about their experiences with the Lord was very encouraging. She was a new Christian, even though elderly, and this was a great blessing to her. She said, I appreciate, she said, I like to go to church and I like to hear the sermons, but I love to hear what God is doing in individual lives.
I had some friends come out, and they said after, or when they were getting ready to leave, it was so peaceful. It's beautiful out here. The drive out here is so beautiful, and then when we got here, it just felt so peaceful. And we were so accepted. We felt very accepted by everyone. And that was very precious to them, to just feel accepted. And I think that that's how all of us feel too. We don't all believe exactly the same thing about everything, but we accept one another and love each other, and we try to extend that love and acceptance to people that come and visit too.
It's been said that the problem with the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. And one of the things that has been so great about Living Springs for us, I can't think of a better place to disconnect from the rat race, if that's the desire, you know, that people have. We have so many friends around the country who live such frenzied lives, you know, where every minute just of every day seems like it's so jam-packed with activity, whether it's work-related, so often it is. You have husbands and wives that have 2 and 3 jobs trying to keep up with a huge mortgage, and they feel like they just keep falling further and further behind. Well, many of the people at Living Springs have employed some alternative building methods, things like cordwood masonry and straw bale construction. It's an opportunity for people, if they want to get out of debt and they want to live a simpler, freer lifestyle, it's a way to do that in a way, it's doable. I like to tell people, if I can do it, anybody can. I was, you know, such an inbred, you know, total suburbanite. You know, we lived in a townhome with gardeners that took care of everything and so forth, and went from that to living in the middle of the woods. I mean, it's been an amazing transition, and it hasn't always been easy, but it's been worth it. And the freedom and the peace and the tranquility that you find, it's hard to find anyplace else.
Everything's so diverse. Everybody's so different. The collection of people that God has brought there is, I'm just overawed. You know, they're just awesome people. Especially the children. Their 2 kids, the 2 little girls, well, all 4 of their kids or something. Another family, we got a phone call one day. The 3 kids wanted to adopt us. I mean, they got 2 sets of grandparents and they want to adopt us.
As their grandparents.
What?
As their grandparents. They
As
want
their grandparents,
As grand-
yeah. Yeah, right. So that's, that was wonderful.
Well, if you didn't know it, our kids have adopted just grandparents too. That's kind of it's going
We
around.
got everything up there, from $500,000 homes all the way down to, you know, people moved in and lived in army tents. And some folks live in trailers, so we have a wide range of economic status, but everybody loves each other.
Okay. Well, that's about all the time that we have today on the Caine interviews. I'm Shannon Caine, and we've been talking with Bob Rutz, Joan Rutz, Nancy Hoy, and David Hoy. Thanks for watching.